you have to think of creative ways to solve a problem. And that's where creativity comes into play. You look outside the box, you brainstorm, you collaborate, because obviously you're not a know-it-all. So it brings everything in perspective. It brings multiple teams working together and collaborating. I think engagement comes from collaboration. Creating collaboration between projects and involving others and just being cross-functional between teams. The bigger the organization, obviously the harder it becomes to manage, but it's also good that you have collaboration across organizational units in order for you to foster this internal culture of creating projects. People focusing together creates the results, because if there are ideas without execution, then they're simply ideas. There's nothing else than that.
How do you optimize your customer's journey, drive demand, reduce churn rate, increase retention, and generate growth? Are some of the questions marketers continuously ask.
Welcome to the Customer XP Crew Weekly Podcast, where we discuss marketing strategies, tactics, ideas, experiences, invite guests and experts to help you with your marketing growth by being customer-centric. And now to this episode.
Hello, Juan, and to all of our listeners, welcome back to another episode of the Customer XP Crew, your weekly podcast about everything customer-centric. Last week, we had a very special guest, which was Paco from Google, and he was providing us a lot of insight about OKRs, which are his specialty. But today, we want to dig a little bit deeper and maybe provide like real case examples on how to apply this to a practical methodology. Welcome, Juan. Nice to have you again.
Hi, Sebastian. How you doing? And good to
Great.
have you and listen to you again. I think last week was really entertaining to have Paco join us from Google and talk about the Google perspective on how they create success. One of the methodologies that they use, obviously, it's OKRs, objective key results, and he taught us how you create an objective, and then since they're a huge corporation, obviously, they have OKRs by teams, by departments, and this really creates a way of negotiation. Also, that's what I really learned about Paco was like, if you're going to negotiate with another organization unit within the organization, it's pretty much like selling to another client for them, and they base it off from the objective key results or OKRs that they have in place.
Agree.
So I think just to build up on Paco's lessons, we want to pretty much recap all the lessons that Paco gave us. They were so entertaining, so insightful, and really can create success for this 2023. And especially, I want to focus it on marketing, your company, marketing your organization, not only externally but also internally. You want to create a lot of culture as well. So OKRs, by definition, is objective key results. They are a framework or methodology in which you state an objective and some key results that you have to hit in a certain amount of period. What Google does in order for them to grow exponentially is like they set an OKR for the quarter, and obviously they review it month over month if they're hitting that, or if all the tasks that they're doing really align with that OKR, because like that you're hitting and you're complying with the objective key result. But more importantly, it creates exponential growth, because what they do is they try to grow the company every quarter by trying to do 2x the results that you did the last quarter. And this really creates good stress, because obviously you want to be creative, you want to create like good solutions in order to arrive to that OKR, that objective key result, where you are landing with your customers, I mean, with your objectives, so that your supervisors or managers or directors and C-level executives see the impact that you're doing for the organization. And obviously you want to do twofold every time, and that's like the ultimate goal. But Paco also told us that if you do anything between 60 to anything above 60-70% of that objective, it's in the green light, so it's still good. So even if you don't do 2x but you did 1.5, 1.6, it's still good.
That's a very interesting threshold, and especially because that way the sentiment of accomplishment is there, but there's room to improve. Because if you set the bar not too high, maybe your team is going to comply to try to do just enough. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Whereas if you try to set a goal that have a percentage of aspirational goal, people are going to try to push their limits and try to achieve always more. But even at that, if you don't get to that point, but you can get to accomplish 60-70%, that's okay. So I think that's a very key valuable piece of information.
Yes, and the good thing when I said good stress is because obviously if you see a graph, when you're overly stressed, then that's obviously going to diminish your production, your development, your just anything that you can put in order to arrive to that goal. So it's going to affect your overall performance. But if you have good stress, that it's up to a part, not a complete stressful where you feel overwhelmed and unmotivated. If you have good stress, which it motivates you, it's like you have to think of creative ways to solve a problem. And that's where creativity comes into play. You look outside the box, you brainstorm, you collaborate, because obviously you're not a know-it-all. So it brings everything in in perspective. It brings multiple teams working together and collaborating. So it really creates a better culture, a culture that really wants to inspire others and collaborate with each other to arrive at a goal that everyone shares. And that's really important for an organization. Obviously, if you're motivated and you have that good stress, you're really creating sound advice, you're creating sound objectives, you're creating sound decisions, because everybody's involved and they are fighting and they're pushing to arrive to that objective. And that really creates valuable lessons along the way, not only for you, but overall the team that's being involved in hitting that objective and that key result.
One of the challenges that people have within the framework of OKR, it's sometimes the blur that inevitably happens within the role of each member in an organization, because sometimes some projects or events demand it. But one very interesting approach that I got from Paco was that you can politely tell your leader, like, look, but do you think that me doing this is going to comply or to support the general goal that we have? Because when you focus your efforts into something else that is not pointing towards the main goal, uh, within time, that's going to be like a snowball effect, and there's going to affect productivity. So having a clear perspective of what each member has to do, I think is very important, and that conveys in the subject of creating culture, because it's not only like setting the OKR, it's fostering and encouraging a culture of always sticking to the objectives, key results.
Absolutely. And I think that from a marketing perspective, it's huge because obviously, as marketers, we want to hit numbers, we want to hit quotas, we want to really create good leads for our sales development reps. We want to really impact the organization in such a way, not only externally, but also internally, promoting culture, creating communication tools that really allow a company to foster their culture. And I think just this methodology paired up with KPIs or whatever it is for you to really have track of everything that you're doing, not from a micromanagement perspective, but more of like, are we really getting close to our goals? It's going to help out the organization and help people feel really motivated to continue doing their job and performing at a top level that is required in order for a company that's innovative to hit those results. So from a marketing perspective, I think it makes more sense because you're always creating things. You have to have creativity. You have to feel motivated, and having objective key results, it just like it's the anchor point for your efforts, and it just creates an environment for everybody around it to do their best at their expertise in order to hit those results.
In the particularly in the industry that attain us, how do you think that we can increase employee engagement? Because that's also connected to the culture of following OKRs.
I think engagement comes from collaboration, and if you work in teams, then you're collaborating and you feel a lot more valuable than if you do work alone. Obviously, nobody can do anything just themselves. It needs a tribe, a group, a people, a team. So creating collaboration between projects and involving others and just being cross-functional between teams, the bigger the organization, obviously the harder it becomes to manage, but it's also good that you have collaboration across organizational units in order for you to foster this internal culture of creating projects. I think one thing that we saw from Paco and a lesson that we learned is that Google actually opens up 20% of the time for them to work on projects that an employee wants to do with passion that helps the organization. So this really creates an opportunity for these people to work on something that they love and they feel passionate about, and that it's going to impact also the organization.
Some random guy, Thomas Albas Edison, sorry, once said that vision without execution is hallucination. What do you think about that? And this is coming from a place where obviously this is all like extremely crucial and important to the success of a company. But how do you think you can really put into practice actionable things that can make really things happen? And how do you track progression in the following the path to achieving goals?
That's an amazing question. I think setting up, so let's do it like a step by step kind of basis. So I think setting up a an objective, obviously, that's what you want to do. Try to create 1 to 3 objectives with key results, each objective with 1, 2, 3, or even 3 key results, not that many. Obviously, you don't want to create too many objectives because then you're gonna feel overwhelmed. So work on 1 or 2, maybe 3 if you have a bigger team, so you don't get your hands full. And then create the key results. What are the key results that you want to reach with that objective? So, for example, let's say, oh, we want to drive more traffic to our website, so we create more brand awareness for our company. The key result for that would be, okay, we're gonna grow from 10,000 users or sessions a month to 20,000, let's say. So then you create some tasks that you can also measure with KPIs if you want to, but if you don't, then you just create the tasks that are obviously gonna align with that. You brainstorm with your team, you create a concession about who's gonna be doing what, and everybody gets together on a weekly basis to see where they are. They can do stand-up calls where they see where they are at and what efforts are being done in order to for you to drive more traffic. Are you creating partnerships? Like, it's somebody going to be doing outbound communication in order to generate partnerships and also piggyback on the success of that partnership, so that you can obviously provide some value to that company in your partnership, but also create a benefit for yourself and drive more traffic to yours. You want to advertise, so again, you're creating content that it's valuable and you want to advertise it so that people arrive to your website. Who is handling the content creation? Who's going to create a topic, create the strategy? So you have to create all these tasks and continuously measure. I think measure it um, on a monthly basis, like a report, and the people who are performing their actions probably do it on a daily to a weekly basis to see if they can improve, obviously, and optimize their results, and see what are the lessons that can be learned on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, so that you can continuously improve whatever you're doing, so you arrive to the objective result at the end of the quarter of saying, hey, yeah, we're hitting 20,000 visits or sessions per month instead of 10,000 that we had originally, and we twofolded that by doing these efforts. So it's about creating a operation workflow, and you can use many tools that obviously help on this, but it's stating an objective, creating the task, delegating to the people who are collaborating, and just work together to obviously hit this objective and the key results that you want.
Do you think one that we're marketing, we have an advantage adopting the OKR methodology, taking into account that being a digital industry, everything is easily traceable, like comparing it to other type of industries?
I think digital marketing, yes, but if you go to traditional marketing, it's hard to measure things. And digital marketing now, obviously, it creates big data and small data, and it allows you to really get more information or insights, but you also want to go through qualitative data, because that's really where the passion and the concerns are from customers and even your team. So grabbing qualitative data can really enhance the understanding of the quantitative data that you gather. Other operations or verticals or professions might not have that clear of data, but overall, there are tools that allow you to start measuring this kind of efforts. And whatever their objective is, if you set it in place, there has to be something that you can measure and attain it. If not, it's really hard to optimize.
Um, why would you consider that businesses that don't have a clear north, or they don't want to waste time designing something as valuable as OKRs, are they deemed to fail and why? Like what would be the difference?
I don't know if that will create complete failure. If they have their own methodology of success, then by all means, congratulations. But they're all based on objectives. I don't know if the framework that they will use is OKRs, is KPIs, or any other framework that they want to create. Um, it's fine, but it's about really focusing on something, measuring it, creating a compelling story behind it to really understand. When I say story, it's not obviously there's a narrative, but it's really creating pieces that align together, that plot together, and create this setting for you to succeed. So it's not that they are deemed for failure, it's that they might lose track and they might be bouncing off walls just because they don't have a clear North Star to go to, instead of a company that knows, okay, we are going to achieve this and this is our path. So it's a direct path that you can walk in. So that's that's the kind of thing that we want to create, and companies really have to understand.
Awesome. One of the most important questions that our audience asked us after the episode with Paco from Google was applying the OKR methodology to a small, medium, or large company like Google. Is there like a core difference, or are there any advantages applying it in a small or medium-sized company, or do they have it easier in a bigger company, or is it the other way around? What do you think?
I think obviously the bigger the organization, the harder it becomes to manage, because obviously you have different groups, different people. There may be scattered all over the country. So it just creates a from a management perspective, it's just a multitude of people, and then having them embrace an objective, it's something that makes them come together. So that creates the commonality between people and how they become intertwined with the efforts and collaboration, which by all means is gonna drive the success. It doesn't matter the size of the company, if it's small or it's medium or it's big or it's a large corporation. So I don't think there might be an advantage, yeah, probably for smaller companies, but I don't really see it that way. And I say there's an advantage from a practical kind of logical way, but not from a I don't know, like deep down kind of perspective on my own. And I don't see it as an advantage. It's just people focusing together creates the results, because if there are ideas without execution, then they're simply ideas. There's nothing else than that. But if you bring them down to actions and a method to the madness, then obviously you're gonna hit the results you want. And if you don't hit them, you create lessons so that you can pivot or optimize in order for you to hit them.
Fantastic, agree. And what would be your advice to a leader that might be struggling aligning OKR with his team? Maybe because there's a clash of personality, or because at a personal level they don't get along very well, but they have to professionally. What would be your advice to those leaders?
Well, that's a really interesting question, if not to say a hard one. I think obviously you have to set your personal difference aside. You're working for in a common objective, which is the success of the company. By all means, what you do for a job, it's normally your source of income. So you have to take that pride away. You have to really create collaboration and be open to opinions of others and work together with others in order to be that leader that you want to be, and really try to comprehend the other person from their perspective and see where they come from. Maybe it's just something that you come together and you talk it out and really set that difference aside, so obviously you guys can settle and go on with life, because personal differences, they're most of the times they're just emotional differences. And
It's true.
when
It's true.
when you set aside those emotional differences and you talk it out and you really create some type of agreement, and to set that aside so that you can work together, that's what it's gonna lead the way to a better performance, not only for you but for the other person, and create collaboration overall with the other team. And it's not gonna create like a an environment that you don't want to be in. So for me, it's about setting the personal difference aside. Talk to, I don't know, HR, if you have an HR department, and they have to mediate so you guys come together. But they're resources, and if you don't have an HR department because your company is that it's a startup and it's not, then come to it. Even if you need a middleman as a negotiator there, another person, that's good. But if your guys are adults, which I think by all means, if we're in holding a career or a job, we should all be adults and be professionals. So conversations cannot get overheated or out of place, and manage it well so that you get together and let that reap the collaboration, really reap the the rewards you want as a business in order for you to hit those objectives.
The power of listening.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And listening, it's not only about listening tools, or you have to be an active listener, like really care about the people that you have beside you, working together hand to hand, and go a little bit personal, and like say hello. Don't come with a nasty face or a straight face. Like, I know you want to bring your A game, but it doesn't mean you have to really be nasty to other people. We all focus, we all want to succeed. So the more that we do that and we listen to others and how they feel, we can help them, and it can help you too.
Fantastic. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Very insightful.
Yeah, I think that was a really hard question, but it was a really good one. Um, Nonetheless, just to recap everything, if you're creating OKRs and that's a methodology you want to use, we strongly suggest it, because quote unquote it's easy. You create an objective, you create some key results that you want to hit based on that objective, then you set and delegate the actions you want to take in order for you to achieve this objective, and get the team collaborating so that you can arrive to the results that you want, and make upper management happy and yourself happy, and obviously perform or surpass those goals that you set aside. So I think it's a great methodology, not only from a marketing department, but any organization unit or company. So I strongly advise that for this 2023, you start creating some objectives as a business, and then depending on the size of your company, you can bring them down to organizational units, and they should align to the company's objectives, those OKRs. So like that, everybody's pushing together from different areas to arrive at the same objective, doing different things, but nonetheless, with the same focus.
And that's a wrap. Juan, thank you again. Awesome to have you, as always. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for staying and listening. Remember, please, if you like it, hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Customer XP Crew. See you later and bye bye.